We're live.
Welcome to Around the Lens, episode 30. I'm your host, David J. Murphy, a visual journalist with about 16 years' experience, currently living in, wait for it, Biloxi, Mississippi. That's correct, I've moved.
And I'm Zach D. Roberts. I'm a photojournalist who's worked for about a decade as well. Currently I'm working on a documentary called The Best Democracy Money Can Buy.
All right, great. Thanks, Zach. Around the Lens is a live weekly visual journalism roundtable show where me and Zach get panelists on the show every Monday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We are broadcasting live this June 20th, 2016. The show features experts in the world of visual journalism gathering to discuss news, topics, and gear related to our career field. We focus primarily on photojournalism and documentary filmmaking. You can like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, subscribe to us in iTunes, Google Play, or your podcatcher of choice. Finally, if you'd like to support us financially and get early access to our bonus topics, drop us a buck over at Patreon. And you can find all the links to all that stuff at our website, www.aroundthelens.com. Our panelist this week is Robert Caplin. Robert, go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, hello. Thanks for having me. My name is Robert Caplin. I'm a photographer based in New York City. I've been working for many journalism outlets for the past 10 years. I also run the website photobrigade.com. We share the work of freelance, not just freelance, but all photographers around the world. It's a resource for photographers, and we have regular meetups, and I host a podcast, the Photo Brigade podcast, and we talk about. I have different guests every week, and we talk about their careers, go through their wonderful images, and yeah, that's me. And I do a lot of travel photography these days, a lot of corporate advertising, commercial type work, yeah, just holding down the fort in New York.
Nice. It's a good place to be, because not only do you have access to a ton of great people who I see on your show every week, but you also have access to that great space in Adorama.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate to have partnered up with them. They really do have a really nice space there, and I've been making some really great use out of it. And there's more to come. They've actually have a partnership with CBS, believe it or not, and there's a connection with CBS Radio, and we're going to put together some really cool events with some of their resources coming up later this summer. I'll keep you guys posted on that as it develops.
Very cool.
Oh, wow. That sounds great. Yeah, I mean, I've been watching or paying attention to your podcast pretty much since C.S. Muncy was on your show and you were walking in the park doing the audio only.
Holding hands, yeah, that's how it used to be, It used to be before all this Google Hangout stuff and before we were doing the filming in Adorama. It was just one-on-one, meeting up in Central Park, sitting on a bench, or at a coffee shop at Starbucks over coffee, talking about our careers.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. What prompted you to start the Photo Brigade?
Well, I guess, there's really what prompted me was seeing different collectives like Luceo and others on social, how they were sharing the work of their collective rather than just promoting themselves personally. And I thought that was pretty neat, because there's something sort of always pompous about sharing your own work and saying, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. And when you have a different entity, whether it's the collective, the name collective, pushing out the different members' work and the different members, stuff. It comes across, and you can, build that community from all the different members as well. So that's what I was trying to do for the entire industry, was present a place that we can share the work of really talented photographers around the world and collectively use our social influences to get the word out there.
Yes, you've been making great strides towards that, at least from what I've seen from my perspective. So I mean, obviously, I've seen your site and the Photo Brigade itself grow over the years. So congrats to you for that, and hope continued success with it.
Thanks, man. Man.
Well, let's get on with the show. Let's get on with this week's topics. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's start with our news of the week. This week, Apple made some big announcements about their sort of latest, greatest iOS and macOS and OS TV and all their OSs. Specifically, the one big point we're going to talk about with our news this week is the fact that Apple now allows you to shoot raw photos. So, we in the photojournalism community and stuff, we've been shooting raw or not shooting raw, but we always had the option to and known about it, since the beginning of digital photography, pretty much. But of course, to the average, pretty much iPhone user, point and shoot clicker, this is going to be a completely new thing to them. So I guess we can talk about this. What do you think about this announcement from Apple? Do you think it changes sort of the space with regard to what people think of RAW and what people use RAW, and will it change your opinion of RAW? Do you use RAW? Do you not use RAW? And just how do you think this will affect, I guess, people who use iPhones as their primary cameras?
Zach,
or
sorry.
Robert?
Rob, go ahead.
Or Robert?
I think it's great that they're allowing us to shoot RAW. I mean, they should be able to. If the phone's capable of capturing it, why wouldn't they give us the option and all that information? And I'll certainly use it, just like I use it with all of my other cameras. Maybe I'll have to be a little bit. I don't know. It's going to take a lot of space on your phone. I mean, you have a real finite amount of space. So I'm really happy that I already upgrade, or my phone I have is the max capacity already. But I don't know that it's necessarily going to change. I don't know. We'll have to see what the files look like, I guess. I mean, it's hard to really judge until we see the files. And I talked to my friend who has a developer copy. I said, "Oh, have you shot RAW yet?" And he goes, "Well, it's not native in the Apple ecosystem right now. That you'd have to have some sort of third-party something or other." So, I mean, I don't know what the scoop is.
It'll be interesting, I mean, especially for people that are using it more and more. I mean, there's that film, Tangerine, that was shot on it was completely shot on iPhones. I mean, only knows whether they'll open up, whether it'll be also meaning to open up raw video, which would be crazy. I doubt it, but because that would just be, oh, you have to have a hard drive attached to, I think that it'll certainly open up a ability to, especially being for the people that use their cameras use their phones for photojournalism. This will be potentially a big thing, but as you say, Rob, it only depends on if it's worth a damn. If it just means a bigger file size, then okay, I don't know, but especially since it'll be interesting. I guess this will potentially mean in the new iPads too. I haven't been an Apple user in a long time, so I'm not thinking. But the big thing for me would be in the iPads, potentially be able to open up Lightroom or whatever program you use to edit, and then actually be able to work with a file that you took right then and there, and post and edit and do the whole thing without touching a computer or an actual computer or something like that, and have an edited file. So it'd be good for Instagram.
Yeah, I suppose it'll be pretty nice, in terms of the digital noise you see pretty often with iPhone photos, especially when you would make any adjustments to a JPEG. So perhaps there's going to be a lot more latitude in the files to play with, and maybe we'll see some just higher quality images come out of the camera.
Yeah, I can see a lot of iPhone users getting this, obviously, because it's going to be part of the new OS, and they'll play with it. They'll probably shoot a few photos, but I think the majority will probably go back to shooting JPEGs, at least in the average people, because they'll realize, oh man, these pictures take up a lot more space. But I think the people who, you're right, who use the phone as sort of a backup camera, or even some who do it as their primary camera. I mean, I remember reading stories and seeing photo essays back in the day when the iPhone first came out of people who used the 2-megapixel camera or something, whatever it was, to do photojournalism. So I think for those people, this is a godsend in terms of at least being able to do more image latitude and manipulation. So if I had an iPhone, I probably would use it. But again, you're going to run up to that space thing, and unlike every other phone on the market, you can't stick an SD card into it. And
well, neither of you are iPhone users, right?
Yeah. No, I actually just re-upped and got the Google the Nexus phone through Google now, straight up, which I actually think I'm probably going to leave pretty quickly. I might actually return the phone. I've only had it for like 2 weeks.
I'm rocking them both.
Oh,
There you go.
I've been very, very curious about Samsung and what it can do with virtual reality, to be honest. And I picked it up just so I could play with the gear, really. But I found that the camera is much better, and it shoots RAW, right? I mean,
Capable, yeah.
I
mean,
believe-
again, I think you can have an app that does it. So yeah, depending on which phone you have, at least.
yeah.
Yeah, with the Android and the Samsung, you can download apps that give you full access to all the data, all the metadata, and all the controls. So even more so than the camera gives you. But yeah, you can shoot RAW. I mean, a lot of Android and Samsung stuff has been doing this for a while. So I would use it in my phone, but again, the pictures that I take with my phone aren't going anywhere. They aren't being published. They're going to go on Facebook or something like that. So I'm not seeing the benefit. I don't really have time to edit images. I don't even shoot RAW with my professional equipment, honestly. So for me, having RAW doesn't do anything for me. I don't know. Are you guys RAW shooters? Do you shoot RAW plus JPEG?
Yeah.
What do you guys do?
Always RAW.
Yeah.
Always RAW. And it's
Just
not.
raw.
I used to be that way. I used to be that way for a long time, but my workflow, and I don't know if you have a tip or something there for me, or for anybody, but I mean, I found the RAW workflow just be way too slow to try and get
It
imagery
definitely
out.
adds a massive amount of work, to be honest. And I've just, a lot of people use Lightroom. I don't use Lightroom. I tried to make the switch. My workflow is Photo Mechanic to Photoshop. I mean, and I think a lot of people do that, but I think a lot of people made this transition to Lightroom, and something tells me that Lightroom makes RAW editing much easier, just in general, batch editing.
I would not be able to. I mean, I don't. Obviously, photojournalism. You don't do a lot. I shoot very little anything outside of quick turnaround photojournalism. And so I don't do a lot of editing to begin. Like, I barely ever open Photoshop other than to make a one-page design, because I don't know how to use InDesign well. So
or
Lightroom
rubber stamp out.
Yeah, Lightroom is my absolute. I don't know what I would do with it. I could probably drop everything else except for Premiere and Lightroom, and I'd be fine. And because it keeps everything quick. It's still slow. I've seen, I've been sitting next to CS when both of us are ingesting our photos into our computers, and we have pretty computers that are on par, and he uses Photo Mechanic and I use Lightroom, and he's like, done. And I'm, okay, my photos are loading, but it's just to be able to do anything. I mean, I'm hoping more, I may have to buy Photo Mechanic just for the, XF data stuff, but captions, because Lightroom's kind of crappy on that. It's hard to use, but for editing, I mean, especially just even landscape stuff, it's I haven't used Photoshop in so long that I don't even know if I'd really be able to get in there and do it properly anymore.
The problem is for me to switch. I've seen it in action, and I think it looks great, but there's a real learning curve going from my workflow to that workflow, and then there's the issue with it having some sort of catalog or whatever the hell you call it. It's like I go through so many photos. I mean, I can't imagine my catalog. On my big thing back here, I've got just my Photos app. I've decided to dump all of the edited photos that I've ever done and all of my iPhone photos into the Photos app, just so that I have some sort of organization of all the stuff I've ever worked on or that's been taken on my phone. And it's massive. It's huge.
See, that's actually where Lightroom would be better than the iPhotos. The Photos app, unless they've changed it, when I've read about it or at least used iPhoto back in the past, they build these massive, ridiculously huge files that are attached to on top of your photos, where they build all the previews and everything like that. Lightroom is much, much better with that, and you can actually scale what size you want the previews to be, and the tagging is really excellent and kind of everything. If you're good at file management, Lightroom is amazing. I'm really crappy at file management, so Lightroom is just okay on that. But it's the idea, I basically either do I have a Ferguson, if I do a story for a week, I'll have an entire Lightroom catalog that is just that story, or if it's like a time period or something like that. I still haven't figured out what my correct management is,
Right.
so I'm not necessarily the one to recommend, I suppose, but it has capabilities. If you're actually even decent at it, it's quite nice, and it doesn't hide your photos the way that iPhoto, or at least iPhoto did before, which you have to use like some, it's 54 folders into your computer to find it. So I mean,
Right.
I like it in that way, and and it's super.
It's
I
a
mean,
tool.
cheap.
It's a tool.
It's $9.99 now, I think, right, for a month. So it's to me, it's crazy not to have it. I've actually just gotten to that argument with CS about just getting on the Creative Cloud for once in a while.
Yeah, I did. It is true. It's like,
Yeah.
but my problem is that you can only have it hooked up to so many computers at once, and it's like I have just different computers that my wife has. You know what I mean?
You just have to sign out on one.
That's true.
I believe
so-
you can have two computers signed in at the same time,
Yeah.
or maybe you can have two installs or something. I don't know exactly the rules. I use a Bridge and Photoshop workflow primarily, so I just dump my photos and then do my selects and stuff in Bridge, and then if I have further edits, I use Camera Raw Editor to do any edits. But that's pretty much my workflow. I don't touch Lightroom and I don't touch Photo Mechanic.
Nice.
So, but I mean, I don't know. Again, with me, it's like I'm an overshooter, so I usually shoot hundreds of pictures, probably more than I need to. So, I mean, just the step of ingesting your imagery, if they were raw, would take forever. So, I mean, do you not shoot a lot, Robert? I mean, you're the one, you said you're turning around stuff really quick. Do you shoot less, or do you have really fast cards, or how do you like overcome that aspect of it? Just the file size alone.
I mean, I guess I don't know. It's funny. It's like I shoot differently than I used to. I used to do a whole lot more journalism work than I do these days. So, a big shoot of mine might be, 1,000, 15. I mean, like a long day's work with a corporate client or something. 1,000, 1,500 images. I literally dump them into my archive, my big archive, and then I just bring it up in Photo Mechanic and Blaze. I think it's so quick to go through and tag, and then I just once I've got. I mean, I like Photo Mechanic so much for the editing portion, going through, making tags, doing your selects, and then I just open it straight over into Photoshop. But that then gives you the level. Then there's the next level. It brings you into Photoshop, but then you have to do the raw conversion, and then it brings them up. So it does really add time having the raw, but tweaking the raws is, I mean, sometimes
you're shooting for a corporate client. You're not shooting for like photojournalism. You're not shooting for quick turn newspaper.
Oh, I still did it for.
Stuff.
I always shot raw. I mean, even with them as well. I mean, it's.
Lightroom has the capability. What I'll do is if it's something that's like super, like I'm uploading to a wire, or if I'm at it's like I'd be at CPAC earlier. Usually my type of work I do, it's just I do a story, I write a story and build a photo essay around it, and then post and then send it. So it's not always quick turnaround like AP might be doing or something. But what I'll do is put the card straight in, and then what Lightroom pops up and it shows you. Relatively quickly builds quick images of or previews of all of your photos on the card, and then you can go through and select to ingest only those, and then I edit those. I'll do like a little bit. I'm gonna do 10 photos, so I'll ingest 30 photos and edit from there, like the best 3 of each kind of around, and then edit those and process those out, upload those quick, and then later in the day when I get back home or when I'm back in the hotel room, I'll dump everything that I did onto a hard drive to look at later, just so it's backed up, and then I can clear my cards. So that's the way I do it. Photo Mechanic, my understanding is though just it's like 10 times quicker than Lightroom ever will be. But yeah, I just don't want to buy another program. That's really the biggest thing I don't want to do. So
I will say that Photo Mechanic is very quick when I have used it, and you only have to buy it once. To buy it outright. So that's all positive.
I just had to rebuy it.
You did?
I had purchased a copy from years and years ago, and now there's like the newest version. And the reason why I had to buy the new one is because when I do my podcasts, I use Photo Mechanic to run the slideshows because it's just super easy and second nature to me. and the older version, for some reason, when I connected it to the monitors into the system, would create some sort of like interference to the screens, and I tested the new version by doing a trial download, and it worked better. And I'm like, you know what, I just need to have it, and I just, cost of doing business, just
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, hopefully it's more beneficial for you in other ways.
Yeah.
There's other features. I don't know. I haven't followed Photo Mechanic
But
religiously.
it also is great. It has an upload feature, so I upload all of my material to, if I was shooting for the New York Times, I could direct upload to their FTP. If I was shooting for a client, I can upload it to Photo Shelter, create a gallery. It's nice. It's just really convenient. I can batch caption. I can, tag, rearrange, do everything that you might need to do for, any project really, except
Definitely.
for edit the picture itself.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see what iOS in the camera raw does. Like, I think it's at the very minimum going to raise people's awareness about what raw is. So I think that could be a good thing. But let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. We're talking this week about how you get paid. So, we always joke about this being sort of the starving artist type profession. Being a photographer isn't necessarily like being a artist with a pen and a paper, but of course, if you don't price yourself well, and many new photographers come into the field, photojournalists, broadcasters, whatever, they come into the field and they don't price themselves right, and they end up hurting themselves in the long run, and then not being able to make a career out of that. Well, there was a good article published about the Petapixel at petapixel.com about this, specifically talking about sort of the difference between charging hourly and charging per photo. So the author talked about this, basically saying if you're charging hourly for your work, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You need to be charging per photo, because that's what he does, and has been successful for him. I guess we'll start with you, Robert. You do corporate work, you do photojournalism. Kind of like, how do you price yourself?
Well, it really depends it's on a case by case sort of situation. One thing that I really thought was interesting that was said was that in that article it said in that article the author said pricing systems which penalize the creator for efficiency is how even busy professionals stay poor. So I think that was an interesting sort of analogy which is true. It's we kind of live in an age, and I have become, being a photojournalist, working daily assignments for papers, magazines, whatever, needing to turn around images. When I shoot a wedding or a corporate gig, when they're used to having a week or two turnaround on these photos, I'm getting them to them next day, and doing it that night, and my editing process. So it really does say something. It's like, why should I be penalized for getting something to you, super quick? Yeah. And so I think that the author made a good point there. And I generally agree. It just I have day rates usually, and often I'll have clients that'll ask me about what's your hourly rate. And I usually try to refer them, well, my usual corporate day rate here in New York for this type of shoot is X amount of money. And what you get with this is XYZ, coverage of your event, try to keep it away from. And then they say, well, it's only going to be a half day, it's going to be a 3-hour event. And I'm like, and I have to educate them. And I say, I understand the event will be 3 hours, but it will take me 45 minutes to get there if I take the subway, 45 minutes to get home, and then another 3 or 4 hours sitting here watching Netflix while I'm editing your pictures and then delivering them, right?
Don't give away the secret.
Don't tell them that you're watching Netflix. That's kind of.
What do you binge watch when you're editing photos? By the way,
my wife says to me, she's like, "What? You're on a new show?" She'll talk to me in the morning. I say, "Yeah," and then in the evening, she'll come back to my desk and say, "You're on episode 8?" I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, we're talking like full-on hour-long shows. I just watch back to back. So, I mean, I generally like the idea of what they're saying, and I understand where they're coming from. And they also reference that this kind of that idea of not charging hourly came about from some sort of a ASMP meetup or meeting that they had attended during the time when digital was taking over film, because you end up everything's so much quicker now that it's digital. You don't want to do it by the hour because you're working less time. So that makes sense. That generally makes sense. But I think there's a time and a place, and I tailor all of my pricing. Every single client, it's a negotiation. It's not, and I do get a lot of people saying, "Can you send me a rate card?" And I just reply to them frankly and say, I don't have a rate card. I need to know more. I tailor everything to what you need, to your budgets. Make it sound like I'm trying to work with them. They wouldn't want me to have a rate card. You want me to tailor this to you, so you don't have to. I don't want to overcharge you or undercharge you.
Right.
So.
It's always the easiest way to not say no, basically, before you get there. So.
Right.
Yeah, it was. You mentioned the author, and the author did mention that. He has to educate his clients, because the same thing, like you said, it's an education process, because you're trying to get them to think of a different paradigm, because they're thinking, most of the clients he works for have like a 9-to-5, a 40-hour-a-week job. So obviously they're saying like, wait, I should pay you $50 an hour for this? I get paid like $15 an hour, whatever they get paid, and it's like that. And of course, again, like you said, the person doesn't understand the full concept of from shoot to process. There's so much more work and time that goes into it. Right. How about you, Robert? Or how about you, Zach?
Yeah, no, I used to really early on. I used to try to come up with some hourly rate, and then luckily I had a bunch of like pro videographer friends, and I actually had to, as a documentary producer and stuff like that, had to hire people, and I was like, what? Wait, it's a half-day rate and a day rate? That actually sounds makes so much more sense than being like, well, I'll be there for 3 hours and then basically telling people. The other thing that's great about that is that you can then decide, how long you want to take editing a little bit more, so you're not charging too much or too little or whatever, and you're not making any commitments other than when you're going to get the images to them, or video for me mostly now, unfortunately. But which is the other thing that changed for me as well. Now that I'm shooting video, because you can be there for a half hour, and then that's only a half hour, but you're editing and you're doing all the video work that you're attaching to a half-hour shoot. It takes at least 4 times as long than the shoot might take at all. I'm doing these quick little Facebook videos now, and I'm trying to figure out how the hell to charge someone for a 2-minute video, when making them realize that, yeah, it only took this long, but there's editing, and everything now on Facebook, if has text on it, so that means I'm captioning everything. That means I'm transcribing. I can take a 2-minute video and it takes 2 hours, and that's a decent job. If I want to do a really good job and quicker edits and stuff like that, it takes me longer. I'm a really slow video editor, so I'm starting to have to figure out that rate, which is a new pain in the butt rate. But my big problem is that the 2 of the main sites that I work for only work with print journalists. So one of the sites literally had to ask me, how exactly, what do we actually do with photographers? Like how are you charging me? Not as if they were trying to get away with something, but literally because the person had never worked with a photographer before. It's like all those kind of not terrible, this is actually a really great site, but all those sites that just have like opinion pieces, and I do occasionally do like photo/opinion pieces for the sites to justify going places that I want to shoot for a wire or something, and I literally had to walk them through what they needed for rights to use the photos, because they're asked, well, do we need sign up? We need forms filled out by these people that you interviewed. And I'm like, no, it's journalism, so you don't need to get a documentary, sheet or whatever necessarily. It's not a bad idea, I suppose, but yeah, a release, yes, thank you. But yeah.
One thing you mentioned, and regarding day rates, I get upset. I do. I get kind of mad when sometimes my client that I work with that I do day rates, they come and say, oh, can we do a half-day rate? Like I don't, just in the same way that when I, which almost is what brought me out of shooting journalism, really, is I started getting publications saying, oh, we can pay a half day for this. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
You're paying for my day just because you're not guaranteeing that I'm going to be a full 8 hours shooting for you doesn't mean that whatever. So I kind of got out of journalism around the time when a lot of my clients were asking me to shoot for half days on the already low journalism rates, right? And I've always tried to work for some of the larger publications, right? And they have better day rate. Well, some of them have better day rates. Some of them just have. I mean, the New York Times is still the lowest, I think, paying client that I've ever worked for, and
I'm shocked on how low they are. I mean, I've gotten paid better by small nonprofit niche sites than what I've heard the day rates are or the rates are from the New York Times. I mean, I suppose half of it's like, well, you get to say you work for the Times. So
right. Look, the reality. Yeah, the reality is that it opens up doors, and if I hadn't been working with the New York Times when they sent me to cover Justin Bieber, I wouldn't have ended up scoring two book deals and a movie, and a tour gig with him. There are so many opportunities that the New York Times it brings you cachet, it opens up doors, and so on. So as with pricing anything, there's all sorts of ways that I look at different opportunities. I recently had I work for a lot of Belgian clients now. The reason being is because I work for their Chamber of Commerce here in New York, and I decided to give them a better deal than I normally would on shooting an event for them. But you know what? It put me in touch with all of these businesses, these Belgian businesses here in New York City, who now I do work for. So and so there's a lot of people say, oh, you can't, there's nothing, you can't pay rent with exposure. Well, that's true. That's definitely true, and I don't think people should necessarily be working for just exposure alone. But it doesn't hurt to consider that, and maybe not so much journalism, but to consider what other value a client can bring to you, other than straight up cash.
Yeah. No, I mean, one of the reasons, since I also work for a documentary filmmaker, one of the reasons I'll do work for one place that might be $50 day, a small rate difference, is that I just have the in with this site now, and so then it makes my other job easier, that I can just call them up and say, okay, so you're going to let us do this, or I have ins in that way. So no, I make those decisions constantly, and also if it's a piece of work that you feel passionate about, I've given work. I've lost probably far too much money, but I've given work to places that will be a better home for it than may pay better. I've made that decision a bunch of times. Just that, it's like if you're writing something if you're doing something that kind of talks, like I did a piece called "The Women of Trump" and photographed and interviewed female supporters of Donald Trump. I could have given that to one site that would have paid double the rate, but I decided to give it to a feminist site that I work for, and the piece went crazy wildfire, of course, and I got a whole bunch of contacts of people now, like I'm weirdly the token white male photographer within the world of feminism. It's literally my bio line at the website, so I'm not kidding, it actually is.
Yeah, I like the concept that the author proposed, and again, like you said, Robert, it's not going to work for every client. You're going to have to tailor what you do to each client, but I think it's definitely an intriguing prospect, and I think if you can get the right client who understands what you're trying to do, then it's probably a better deal. It's just you're going to have to obviously compete with every other photojournalist, every other photographer who's saying like, oh yeah, $400 for the day, and you get 6,000 images or something, and when you're like, I'll sell you 10 images for $1,000 or something, whatever, it's going to be.
They suggested selling by the photo, and that's not going to work necessarily for a journalism client. That just isn't the way it works. That works for maybe this commercial client, or I think it was architectural or something that they mentioned.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and shuttle on to our last topic of the week. We're talking about gear, as always, for our Gear Talk segment. We're going to be talking about compact cameras. Now, of course, we all love our big DSLRs, our big glass. We get to shoot with a nice 2.8 aperture or lower, get that nice bokeh, or shoot with our fixed focal length lenses. But there's these whole other category of compact cameras out there, and I think there's a lot of good compact cameras that can do a lot of the same stuff that the bigger cameras can. So what are you guys' thoughts on these compact cameras? Do any of them intrigue you? Are these things you'd either have and use as a primary or perhaps a backup? Or are they strictly for, when you go out on vacation and do a little travel photography? Although, I'll be honest, there's the link you suggested or you submitted, Zach, has some pretty high-end compact cameras on here.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, yeah,
There's
no.
a few.
No, I
was all-
ignore the idea that it's for travelers or whatever. I mean, the Fuji X100.
My
and stuff
GH4
like that.
my favorite camera.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was an interesting list of things. It's from Nat Geo's travel site, but
But I mean, okay, I guess we got one point and shoot camera, the Olympus TG3 Tough.
Yeah, there's a Canon in there,
it's a really weird combo. Like once I've gone through it again, that it includes the RX10 and that Fuji or the Olympus camera, which it's
well,
not.
I think the topic is generally interesting, but
just small cameras by big cameras,
I'm a big believer in shooting small. I personally just really hate. I used to shoot sports. I got into the game shooting sports. I shot. Basically, my whole internship when I was at the New York Times was shooting the Yankees, among many other non-sports things. But and I was using the big cameras and stuff, and I thought it was cool back then to have this big fancy camera. Well, then the 5D, the original 5D came out, and I started playing with it, and I fell in love with the smaller cameras, so much more mobile. And then I ended up, I guess it's been like four or 5 years now. I can't believe it's been that long now. But I got a Leica. I got a digital Leica for the first time, and I've never actually used a film Leica. But what I've been told and picking up the film Leica is that the digital one's still much heavier. But ever since I got the digital Leica, I do use it on. I used it a lot on journalistic shoots, and I use it a lot for regular shoots. But I just love it for travel. I love, it's the real deal. It's small. Only Leica people know what it is, or geeky photographers know what it is and will stop and question me and say, "Oh, look at that camera." And I tape over the Leica so people can't see the dot. I try to keep very discreet about it. And
people pay thousands of dollars for that dot.
They do.
They pay a premium for that dot.
I don't, until Leica wants to give me money for me advertising that for them right now,
or at least help insuring it. So that's the important thing,
Right.
That's how you cover it.
Just sell the red dots online. You can just stick that on your any camera. I would buy that.
Well, what happened is I always used to think that it was so pretentious, the Leica, and people using Leicas, and then my friend became a Leica dealer and sent me, and basically works for Leica Miami down in Florida, and he sent me. He's like, "Here, let me just send you a loaner. Just try this, And he sent me an M9 with 3 lenses, and they were like all 1.4s, the whole gamut. And of course, I fell in love. It was just like hook, line, and sinker. I really like what I like about it was the manual nature. Really having to feel it and really pushes you as a photographer to shoot that way. But I'm sorry, I totally got off the topic. Point and shoots, meh.
I like the smaller, compact DSLRs. That's why I moved to the Panasonic GH4. I think the micro four thirds format is definitely a lot easier to handle, or at least deal with in terms of lugging around smaller, compact SLRs and cameras. So, yeah, I'm all about smaller stuff, compacts or point and shoots. I mean, really, your phone can do everything you need to do for a point and shoot.
Exactly. That's my point. Especially now with RAW, right?
Just
although I will
take a
say,
photo and hold it up.
I'm very intrigued by the P900. Have any of you guys the Nikon P900? Are you familiar with this camera?
Yeah.
It's 2,000 millimeter zoom on it. It's a built, all constructed one piece type zoom camera. That thing, it's pretty crazy.
The quality
But
is incredible
yeah,
for the price point. I actually just a friend of mine who travels a lot. Because I get this all the time. I'm sure you guys get it too. It's like, hey, I'm going on this. Here's my budget. I want to buy a camera. And she had this insane list of like, I want it to be this. I want it to be small. I want it to have a big zoom. I want it to shoot raw. And da da da. And I was like, well, the only camera that you're going to be able to do is this camera. It's not going to be waterproof, though, because that's also another thing she wanted. And she got it, and she's just been posting. She has no photo experience. She's been posting photos of the moon and things like that. And I'm like, the lens that I would need to get that. I mean, obviously, I'm sure she can't print them of any real substantial size, but just for I mean, everyone just posts to Facebook. That's where everybody goes. And once you got there. Myself personally, I'm thinking about picking up either a Lumix or a Fuji. I just can't see myself getting rid of my Nikons anytime soon, but I do really want something I don't have to feel like I'm lugging something around. But I hate the idea of not having a camera with me, and I personally I despise using a touchscreen for a camera. So. That's one thing I hate that movement where like I know a bunch of different cameras, the lower end Nikons are moving towards having touch screens and things like that, and I just like I'm usually you covered in water, you're covered in everything. If you've ever tried to use your freaking cell phone when your hands are sweaty, like it doesn't work, and I'm like I don't want to deal with that. But that said, if I can find a cheap Fuji or something, I'm probably going to pick one up relatively soon. So.
well, I mean the GH4 has been out for a couple of years now, so you could probably get that pretty cheap used.
Oh no, I'm talking about the like I want to pick up one of the like the XTI or XT1, XT1 or a similar camera like that. Just something that doesn't. I don't really like the Micro Four Thirds. I at least want the APS-C sensor in it. So.
Okay. Robert, when you're not using the Leica, what do you use as your sort of like your primary?
I use Canons actually. I have a 5D Mark III and a 6D, and to be honest with you, the 6D is my go-to.
Okay.
I like I said, I like them small. The difference, the true difference in the two in terms of image quality is a megapixel or two, and I don't think ever. Except for when I shot, well, it wasn't an image quality problem. It was a ISO problem back in the day when I switched from Nikon to Canon. It was, I was shooting a lot of sports back then. But I've never had a problem with the size of my pictures ever since I've been shooting digital. Ever.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the stuff we shoot is, especially these days for web, your phone, your watch, right? And so you don't really need that super high quality photo, and now they are making those. The Canon just came out with the the 5D R or whatever. They're like 50 megapixel. And it's just all I think about is like, well, crap, I'm gonna have to go buy another couple grand worth of hard drives to RAID and store all my RAWs because I'm shooting RAW.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Hassi is coming out with they're supposedly coming out with a not a compact. I don't know if it's a compact camera or what. That's supposed to be 50 megapixels. So. I haven't seen what the sensor size is, though, so that'll be interesting.
I mean, there's a use for that stuff. I mean, there's some photographers that shoot, billboards and shoot really amazing details and stuff like that, and so there is a definite need for some people, but generally for the work that I do, unless I could be wrong, maybe in 10, 15 years there's going to be some sort of need for one of my old photos to, run across a skyscraper or something. And although the biggest photo that I ever have had printed is for one of my big corporate clients, it's a panorama which I stitched together a bunch of verticals, and it's a 30-foot by 8-foot tall wall, glass wall, and
wow.
even though I shot them all vertical and stitched them together, they still, you know, when you get right up to it, it's like, oh, it looks pixelated. But you know, you're not supposed to look, you know,
Yeah.
you're supposed to look from a distance.
Tell
right?
me where's that picture so we can go up to it and with a magnifying glass.
It's actually, you probably never will be. It's in the auditorium of the School of Medicine here in New York, the School of Medicine that I work for here.
Okay, I'm booking a flight right now. I'm gonna be there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, you know, the megapixel. That's always gonna be, you know, a thing. But you know, what's funny is at least the rumors. I don't know if you've been following the rumors of the Canon 5D Mark IV, but beyond shooting 4K, I mean, the sensor doesn't seem like it's gonna be that much bigger in terms of megapixels. I don't think Canon really cares. I mean, they do care. They have their, you know, I think the 5DR or whatever it's called, and that shoots 50 megapixels. I think they're just going to keep their Mark II, their 5D series is, you know, probably around the 20, 30 megapixel range. I mean, do you care about the 5D Mark IV? Is it a camera you're anticipating if and when it ever comes out? I'm very much anticipating it. That's why I bring it up. I love the Canon.
Well,
camera.
we'll see what it does. You know, like as with every camera, it's like it used to be like, oh, I want to. You know, I remember I started off with Nikons. You know, I had the Nikon D1H was my first digital camera, and then the Nikon D2H, and there were big jumps, there were big leaps at that point.
Yeah.
The speed, the file size, the screen, the LCD screen, LED screen, LC, whatever it was back then. And it's just going to be a matter of like, how's it going to affect what I do already? Do I need to purchase it? Will I try it? Sure. If I get the opportunity to use it, and maybe I will. I'll check it out. But the reason why I haven't been so interested personally in the, you know, say the 5D or not, I mean the 1D X Mark II or whatever it is, right? Is just because I don't really need it in my workflow. Although we have picked one up because we're going to start doing some video work, and that was perfect for the video side of things, but not the stills. I just would never really use it for the stills unless I was going to shoot the Olympics or something.
Yeah. Is that the camera that shoots 4K?
Right, and that's why we wanted to shoot 4K. We wanted to be able to, I guess, I don't understand really all of the specs. You know, I'm basically with Photo Brigade, we're kind of turning more into a production house, and we're going to start putting out more editorial video and working with different partners to do so. So I'm working with, you know, my production team, and they're also building some series, and you know, he's doing more of the production work, and he's trying to explain, okay, we want to do it in 4K. I've got a 4K monitor. I've never, you know, it's like I think I have it set so that it looks like my other monitor that's not 4K because I don't really care. It's just I know I should probably get it for some reason, right? But yeah, I don't really know exactly what the specs are in these things, but you know, it does make a big difference in the video world when, you know, at the price point. You know, there's a lot that you can do. Yeah, something about internal process. I don't know.
Yeah, I love the 4K. I've been playing with 4K on the GH4, and it's just so great because I mean, obviously, I'm never gonna, you know, the footage I'm shooting now in 4K, I can't even enjoy because my TV is 1080p. My monitor, which I've got the high-end MacBook Pro, doesn't go up to 4K. But just knowing that, you know, when my kids look at the video, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, it's not 8K or it's not 16K, but it's pretty good, Dad. You know, you got some decent footage there.
Yeah.
But anyways, so compact cameras, great. Let's close up our show with our eye catchers, which of course are our picks of the week. Robert, you're our guest panelist. You go first. What's your eye catcher for this week?
So I sent it in. What are you gonna do? You gonna put it up or something? Or we just talk about
link in the show notes.
Oh, I see.
But you can talk about it. I mean, we're not going to. We can't show what you're going to say.
I see. I got it. Well, we didn't talk about a topic that I thought was pretty interesting. We were going to talk about photojournalism, and is it worth it?
Oh, we will. We will. That'll be part of the bonus topic.
Oh,
we're going to talk about it after the show, which, if you want to get access to early,
good tease, Rob. Good job.
Okay. Donate. Okay. What was the question? Oh,
What
right,
is your eye
right.
catcher this week?
My eye catcher. I thought it was pretty interesting to see this link from the New York Times of how the front page of the New York Times developed. They basically, the New York Times created a GIF showing the New York Times homepage as throughout the hours and days as the gunman, the Orlando gunman situation was happening, and I thought it was kind of like this Back to the Future moment where you saw the picture changing on the sheet of paper, as things changed in the future or whatever, and just to sort of think like, yeah, we're in this digital age where you can literally see how they build out how it goes from this like not headline story to the top headline story to breaking news to a much larger piece to taking over the entire front page all over the course of, I guess, a couple of days. It was just really interesting to me. And it wasn't so much, about the photography, although you could see how it went from a headline and the photos and how the photos, contributed to the storytelling on the homepage. So pretty cool. I'd check it out if I were you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how it goes and takes over the entire page towards the end there. That's pretty amazing.
Yep.
Cool. Zach?
Yeah, mine is just haunting photos from. This is a couple weeks old, but haunting photos from this year's Courage in Photojournalism award winner, Adrienne Ohanisson. I don't know her last name. Sorry. Just absolutely incredible photos. Worth checking out.
Cool. And my pick this week, or my eye catcher this week, is a Canon 24 to 105 millimeter lens mug that will stir your drinks for you. I love the Canon brand, and this is probably something I would buy. I think it's pretty neat that it stirs your drink for you. I would get that in a heartbeat and let it stir my drink. Although I could probably just shake it in my hand, but I think this is pretty cool. I have a 7200 millimeter mug, which is not very good because the lid, like, you have to unscrew the entire lid to drink from it, and I can't use that in any situation because I need to be able to sip from it. So this lens, or I'm sorry, this mug does that. Does what I need. So
Yeah.
a mug that stirs itself. Amazing.
I've got the 10. What is this? The 135 f2. Oh no, that's just an actual lens.
What I find
you don't want to put liquid in that.
Right.
Yeah, no. It's difficult to make a mistake. Luckily, or unluckily enough, I don't actually own the 24 to 70. Although I have had friends go, "Oh wait, when did you get a 24 to 70?" And then they pick it up, and it's like.
It's fun to throw at people. It's just
exactly.
to scare them, right? Yeah, I have a couple of those, and it's like these off-brand. It's not Canon. It's Canyon, or some sort of take off of their name. So Canyon.
Yeah. I just love that I've used it before to sneak things into events because I for some reason go to an event and they allow camera equipment, okay, but they don't allow liquid or whatever. This is super useful, except for the fact that I don't know if it got washed or what, but it doesn't really seal properly, so I just don't use it at all anymore because that's dangerous to have in your bag.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. Well, let's close our show with our plugs. Robert, how can people get to know more about you?
Well, you can go to robertcaplin.com to see my photography, and I think that more importantly, you should go check out photobrigade.com, which is the community that I run. You can check us out at Photo Brigade on all social media. Join the club, see what it is that we do. We post your work. If you're interested in having some of your work featured, hit me up through Photo Brigade and join the club.
Yeah.
And YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yes.
Photo Brigade. The Photo Brigade on YouTube. We have a channel, and that's where we post all of our podcasts and live panel events. So check that out and subscribe.
Yeah, I have noticed. Yeah, you put the panel events on there. Do you put the panels on your podcast, like the same podcast channel?
I
think that would do well there.
Well, we haven't been putting them we haven't been putting the audio from those on iTunes. Only the one-on-one podcasts are on iTunes, but it's a thought. It's just the problem is then it becomes it's a different thing, So it's all our podcasts and the panels and events and stuff are all on the same YouTube page, so they can all kind of merge together there. But yeah, different things, all on the same channel.
Okay. Different strokes, different folks. Zach?
And yes, I do recommend. I have written quite a bit, or maybe not quite a bit, but some at least for the Photo Brigade. So you can check out my work there. But of course, aroundthelens.com and zdroberts.com and basically every ZD Roberts that you can think of on social media. That's me. So. Yeah.
And I also have written a whole article for the photobrigade.com. I should write more for you guys. You're doing a great stuff out there, and I think good for anybody who needs wants to get their work seen more often and just reach a really dedicated community. But you can reach me and find me at djmphoto.com or anything DJM photo related, and of course, as always, aroundthelens.com for me and all of our panelists and everything you need to get in touch with us or subscribe to us or stalk us or follow us, whatever you want to do. But I want to say thanks again to Robert Caplin for taking time to be on the show. Again, if you want to hear our discussion continue on the bonus topic, please follow us on Patreon. But for Zach Roberts and Robert Caplin, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, and we are out.